The Global Center on Adaptation is making young people central in driving the adaptation agenda. In 2022, we organized 7 regional youth adaptation forums, bringing together young people and decision makers. One of the key recommendations is to promote youth participation in the decision-making process at all levels, but especially to promote the participation of youth in the design and implementation of the national adaptation plans. It is a call and it is an invitation to governments, but also other stakeholders to promote youth participation in the NAPs.
Good evening in the Pacific and good morning in Europe. Welcome to the Youth Adaptation Forum for the Pacific. Today is the World Water Day, and this forum is contributing to the UN Water Conference. My name is Adriana Valenzuela. I lead the Youth Leadership and Education Program at the Global Center on Adaptation. GCA is an international organization that works as a solution broker to accelerate adaptation solutions. And today, I am delighted to welcome all of you. We have speakers from Australia, Fiji, Vanuatu, Solomon Island, Samoa, the Netherlands, the co-presidency, Canada. All together because we have a common objective, and it's accelerate adaptation solutions. Last year, GCA organized different regional youth adaptation forums, and I am really excited to launch the series of Youth Adaptation Forums 2023 that brings together young leaders, but as well decision makers. And this forum has 3 main objectives. The first one is that young people can provide their recommendations and ideas for the global goal on adaptation. Second, promote youth participation in the design and implementation of national adaptation plans. But the most important is to showcase inspiring stories that youth are leading to implement adaptation solutions. Today, we have a very interesting agenda. We will have, first of all, stories of change, change makers, and welcome to all our speakers, but also welcome all our participants. We have participants from different countries in the Pacific, but also in other regions around the world. We will have then these also opening remarks and some inspirational messages from global leaders. And also we will be able to hear from all of you, from the participants, about what do you think, your experiences, your gap and needs. And we will have working groups. The results of all these consultations and forums will be presented this year at the COP28 that will take place in Dubai. It is really a platform to amplify youth voices. And without any other delay, I want to start the Pacific Youth Adaptation Forum with opening remarks by Professor Patrick Verkooyen, that is the CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation. Let's watch the video together.
Friends, good morning from the GCA headquarters in Rotterdam, aboard the world's largest floating office. My name is Patrick Verkooyen. I'm the CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation, and welcome to the Pacific Youth Adaptation Forum, the first of our regional fora this year. And obviously it's no accident that we're kicking off in the Pacific region, which is facing rising sea levels like no other place on Earth. Unless urgent action is taken now to reverse the trend, countries such as Tuvalu will be uninhabitable within decades. But on top of these so-called slow onset events, Pacific nations, including yours, also face even more frequent and intense weather events. Take Vanuatu. Vanuatu has been ravaged by back-to-back cyclones in recent weeks. More than 4/5 of its citizens have suffered as a result. And you're still in dire need of help with water, sanitation, and hygiene. We can no longer, colleagues, bury our heads in the sand. Climate change is a reality that is upending the natural order. This is not a time for passivity. This is a time for urgent solutions to make adaptation to climate change a first-order priority. Pacific Islanders are famed for their adventurous spirit. And I've met, quite frankly, many of you, and I know how resilient you are. I'm certain that it's this bold spirit of adventure that you have made your own, which will propel you forward. But let me offer 3 key bits of advice. First, it is vital that you ratchet up the pressure on governments to make good on the promise they made in Glasgow to double adaptation finance. Let's double down on adaptation finance indeed. 2, it is crucial that you continue to engage your governments on adaptation policies to ensure that your voices are heard loud and clear in adaptation policies, particularly the national adaptation plans. And third, it is of paramount importance that you focus on developing the innovative adaptation solutions that will deliver a more resilient future for all. Last year, across 7 regional forums, as well as the inaugural Youth Dialogue, thousands of you brought your ideas and energy to the adaptation agenda. Your vision was presented to decision makers at the highest levels, up to Secretary General Ban Ki-moon of the United Nations, heads of states of governments at the Youth Dialogue and Africa Adaptation Summit last September here in Rotterdam. So my promise to you is this: you have created momentum around adaptation, and this is the year to build on that success. I'm ready and willing to do all in my power to back you up and carry your work forward, because all of us know, we know, it is this critical moment in the climate emergency. We need your passion, your energy, and we need your creativity and boldness. So with this, it's time to get down to work. Please enjoy this forum, and I'm already looking forward to being able to read and digest your conclusions, because I'm sure you will deliver the outcomes it deserves. Count on my full support. I thank you.
The key message of the Professor Patrick Verkoyen, CEO of the Global Center on Adaptation. We need your energy, we need your action, and we need your passion to mobilize adaptation solutions. Welcome to all the participants that are joining us from all over the world, but especially participants from all the Pacific. And all of you are welcome. You can introduce yourself using the chat. Please share where are you from, your organization. And now we want to engage with you. We want to know what is happening and what is your opinion. And I want to invite you to use Mentimeter. Please use the code 622373318. It's a Mentimeter. You can use your mobile phone to give your opinion. And we will have 3 questions. The first question is, we want to measure how do you evaluate your understanding of climate change adaptation. And you can evaluate this from 1 to 7. Then use the code 622373318 and share what is your understanding of adaptation, of climate change adaptation. We can see people start to register in Mentimeter. You need to use the code, and you can include your responses. Now we can start to see the responses there. How much is, how do you evaluate, how do you assess your knowledge about adaptation? Is it very high? Is very low? Is in the middle? And these responses are very important to design the programs and projects targeting young people. Then let's go with the second question. As part of the Paris Agreement that governments adopted and as part of the adaptation international agenda, governments are invited to design a national adaptation plan. The question for the Mentimeter is, do you know what is a national adaptation plan? And you can reply yes or not. Then for the participants that just joined us, please, I welcome you and I invite you to use the code 622-37318. And we are under the question, do you know what is a national adaptation plan? And now we can see also on the screen the responses. Let's move to the third question. The National Adaptation Plan is a policy that governments design and develop to identify priorities, but also actions needed to really mobilize adaptation solutions according to the national circumstances and needs. Then it's a national policy. The question is, do you want to be engaged and to participate in the design and implementation of the National Adaptation Plan in your country? You can include your responses using Mentimeter. The code for all of you is 622-37318. And the question is, would you like to participate in the design and implementation of the National Adaptation Plan in your country? You can continue including your responses, and now we are going to move. Then last year, one of the key recommendations had been promoting youth participation in decision-making processes at all levels. And in many opportunities, young people say it's difficult to engage, and what we want is to provide a platform for the stories of change, stories of inspiration. This week, the IPCC released its synthesis report. And there are three key messages. First, the urgency of action. Second, the need to have an integrated approach between adaptation and mitigation. And third, that we need to really mobilize finance for adaptation. And we want to know and to hear from young leaders how had been the journey and how did they get engaged and involved in adaptation solutions. And I am delighted now to move with our first speaker. Then I have Haley Payne. She is from Australia. She was member of the Youth Advisory Panel in 2022, but as well is a young change maker. She's leading different initiatives. Then welcome, Haley. Very happy to see you here. It's late in Australia. And I wanted to start that you share with us a bit of your story. How did you become involved and engaged with the climate change issues?
Hey, Adriana, and hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me on. So my journey into being engaged in climate activities really started maybe around 5 or 6 years ago. I've always been really passionate about social inequality, around poverty, and around education issues. And it became very clear to me after attending one of the climate reality conferences that I'd been missing the key intersectionality between these issues and climate change. And at that moment, everything really just blew my mind and my life trajectory completely changed. I was all in on climate change from that point on. And a lot of my work is still in this social space around human rights, and I work for the Red Cross, so in humanitarianism as well. So my key interests really have pushed into adaptation because of that reason and seeing the impacts that it's having on people already.
Haley, and last year you were part of the Youth Advisory Panel, and also now you are a member of the regional coordinators, and especially for the Pacific. But what did happen last year? And what are the key recommendations that young people provide to decision makers?
Yeah, so last year we had an incredible year as the inaugural Youth Advisory Panel to the CEO of the Global Centre on Adaptation. It's a group of young people from across the world who bring together diverse ideas on climate adaptation from our own lived experience and our experiences working across different sectors. So last year we held 7 regional forums across the world similar to this, and we gained a bunch of feedback from young people just like yourselves, learning all about how they're engaging in adaptation in their communities and also gaps of what young people want to learn, but most importantly, what young people want decision makers to know about adaptation. So this all accumulated in a huge event that we held in Rotterdam last year, November, and we got to meet everyone in person, which was so exciting after COVID. And then we got to bring these ideas together and bring it into a youth engagement on the Global Goal and Adaptation report. And in this report, we put together some really key recommendations for decision makers on adaptation, and they're really about financing youth solutions. They're about providing education for young people, and they're about ensuring that decision making and policy making is inclusive and participatory, but that it's also actually co-led by young people and isn't just kind of made in that tokenistic way. So it was a really packed year, but we really feel like with the support of GCA and with all of the young people we got to meet across the world, we really got to start pushing forward the adaptation agenda for youth. So yeah, it was a really exciting year.
Fantastic. And finally, how is your contribution in Australia? What are you doing there to mobilize and also empower young people to take adaptation action?
Yeah, so in Australia, much of my work is more on the local scale. So really focusing on addressing key adaptation gaps in the community. A lot of people still don't really see how climate change is affecting them, especially in some of the cities in my country. So really working on helping people to understand climate adaptation education is really key there. So working in that and just connecting people in with the solutions, both individual and at a society level, that can help them to adapt in a very rapidly changing climate. So it's all interlinked with the work that we're doing internationally, and it's really exciting to see where that's going.
Thank you very much, Haley. Later we will come back. And now we will go to another country. We will go to Fiji. And I am also delighted to welcome Nikhil Prasad. He was also member of the Youth Advisory Council. And Nikhil, the Pacific is one of the regions that has been affected most by the impacts of climate change. Just what is happening there in the Pacific?
Thanks, Adriana. Really incredible question. It's more than evident that the Pacific region is one of the most drastically impacted region within the global space. The IPCC reports always keeps coming. There's scientific evidence that actually indicate the impacts of the climate change within the Pacific region. It is also something that I'm very passionate to talk about, which is the Pacific region not even contributing to 0.003% of the entire region's global emissions, and yet we are one of the most drastically impacted from food securities, availability of resources, exploitation of our natural ecosystems, and now also to basically coral bleaching and loss of habitat. And now Pacific people are also migrating. Pacific relocation is happening all because of sea level rise. These are some of the many impacts and adversities that is being pushed forward because of human-induced climate change impacts within the Oceania region.
Nikhil, and why then young people in the Pacific decided to take action? I think you have been one of the leaders in the region, and how, but also if you can share a bit more about what is the Youth Adaptation Network, how members can be part, and what are the plans that you have for 2023?
Thank you very much again, Adriana, for the questions. I think I'll try to answer it in 2 parts. Firstly, youth within the Pacific region have recognized the impacts of climate change, and they have decided to take necessary actions for it. There are many, many youths that are now realizing that they need to take up the decision-making space, be part of the table to advocate about the impacts that we are facing here today within the Pacific region, the many impacts that I just mentioned, and basically being part of the decision-making space. If we are being impacted, we need to have a seat on the table to decide what necessary solutions will be taken forward to make sure that the Pacific region gets the necessary, let's say, adaptation methods to get the necessary needs to advocate and get the climate change impact sorted, which at this point in time is already irreversible. But the only thing that we can do right now is to not make sure it escalates further. So that's one of the things that the Pacific youth leaders are doing, which I can talk about from my personal point of view. The next thing that you asked was regarding the Youth Adaptation Network for GCA. So the Youth Adaptation Network, which is also primarily now our regional coordination of JD that we have at the point in time. So what we're necessarily doing right now is working towards the GGAs, which is the Global Adaptation Agenda, and the visions that we have in alignment of the UNFCCC adaptation pathways, which primarily looks at 3 objectives, which includes enhancing adaptive capacity, strengthening resilience, and reducing vulnerability, which is in line with the adaptation thematic. Thank you.
Excellent. And Nikhil, then very brief, what are you doing in Fiji also to enhance adaptation solutions?
So I'm basically based in Australia right now as a research student, but when I was in Fiji, I was part of advocating towards educating about climate change at rural communities, at universities. When I was a university student, I took out opportunities to educate my peers about what climate change is, because we know that there are different aspects of climate change that we can educate about. My field of expertise is more towards climate science, climate policy, and research methods to address climate impact. So these were some of the areas that I was looking at to basically educate, inform, and IPCC is another area that I focused a lot. So I also used IPCC methods to break down and educate a lot of my peers and also community members about the science of climate change, basically. Now I am a research student in Australia. So one of the goals that I have is to look at policy methods at national and regional as well as international levels, and how these policies may have the necessary gaps and how these gaps can be filled so that we can meet the policy gaps, basically. Yeah. Thank you.
And today is the World Water Day. And today is the first day of the UN Water Conference. Global leaders are in New York. It's the first conference. And now I can see also on the screen the fact sheet on water. And Nikhil, what is this fact sheet and how people can access to these fact sheets?
Oh, thanks again, Adriana. So what GCA has done is GCA has produced this fact sheet outlining the African continent, its water resource management, and floods that is occurring in Africa, and the disaster risk management. One of the reasons why we're launching it today is because the Pacific Youth Forum is in alignment with the UN Water Conference. So we thought of launching this fact sheet. In summary, our fact sheet basically presents statistical numbers, identified barriers to effective flood management for the continent, and key messages, and finally, youth-led adaptation solutions. One of the things that we could possibly do is transition from one continent, which is the African continent, now move towards the Pacific continent and have a similar fact sheet, which we could hopefully do with the Youth Adaptation Network. So, yeah.
Then it's an invitation to all our participants to just check the website and visit the fact sheets that very soon will be available online. And it is an honor to present the next experience. In many opportunities, young people say that they cannot influence decision-making processes and that they feel that they cannot really take part. And now it's really an honor to present this initiative. It's an initiative that was born in Vanuatu in a classroom and reached the UN General Assembly. And I am delighted to welcome His Honorable Excellency Odo Teni. He is the permanent representative to the UN and a special envoy on climate change. He will give a general overview of this initiative that Vanuatu has presented to the General Assembly. Please, let's watch the video.
Excellencies and distinguished guests, I am honored to deliver this message here at the Pacific Youth Adaptation Forum. The delicate world we live in has always offered humanity everything needed for our survival. However, human-induced climate change is causing widespread destruction to ecosystems, people, and communities. Climate change affects all facets of our lives, including the security of life-sustaining water. It is with this deep concern for the well-being and future that a group of passionate young law students from the Pacific approached my government in 2019 to bring the issue of climate change to the International Court of Justice. This advisory opinion initiative has now gained enormous support from the people around the world, including many youth and civil society. This demonstrates the powerful force of youth in driving transformational change. Vanuatu and a core group of countries are taking this vision and making it a reality. While we appreciate and see value in Paris Agreement, ultimately, there is a significant gap between what we are doing in terms of NDCs and what is actually needed to stay within the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit. It is in this context that the core group is seeking an advisory opinion from ICJ to clarify the rights and obligations of states and the international law in relation to the adverse effects of climate change, as well as to achieve climate justice. The advisory opinion resolution will be put up for adoption on March 29. Vanuatu and the core group of countries seek the support of all UN member states to adopt this resolution. We anticipate that this advisory opinion from the ICJ will have a strong and positive impact on how we address climate change and ultimately protect present and future generations. Thank you.
And now I am here with one of the change makers that make possible that this initiative will reach from a classroom to the UN General Assembly. I am delighted to welcome Aoife Fleming. Aoife, I want that you share with us how and when did you become engaged in climate change issues and why?
Thank you, Adriana. A few years ago, I got involved with climate change issues. For me, it started with my education and the school I attended and the friends that I had that were very interested in this topic. And then in 2019, I became involved with the initiative to bring the world's biggest problem to the world's highest court. I attended COP26 in Glasgow, and that's where I had the opportunity to meet Solomon Yeo, one of the young leaders from the Solomon Islands in the Pacific who started this initiative and who really inspired me to join and to together work to bring this important topic to the UN.
Aoife, for young people that are not very familiar with the United Nations and the International Court of Justice, give a general overview. How does it work and why it is so important to have the International Court of Justice engaged and involved in this request for an opinion on climate change?
When the UN was founded in 1945, countries established three main organs of the United Nations: the Security Council, the General Assembly, where all countries meet, and the International Court of Justice. So the International Court of Justice, or the ICJ, it's the main judicial organ of the UN. And it's a court that countries can call upon to give legal opinions to guide them in matters of international peace and security. And climate change is definitely one of those matters. And actually, the court has never given a judgment on climate change before. So this moment is really a key moment for the Pacific and for the world to make sure that we use all the tools that are available to us to combat climate change.
And from this experience, because it was born in Vanuatu, and we will hear from one of the also founders of this initiative directly in the Pacific, but this reached also the international cooperation and solidarity of young people from different countries. Then for young people that feel discouraged, what will you say to them?
I think this initiative is definitely one great example of that it's possible to make a change, and that you're never too young. And by working together, by demanding more from our governments, we can really push forward these big issues that are facing humanity. And so I would really encourage everybody to seek those cooperations between regions as well. Young people all across the world are affected, although of course in the Pacific young people are affected more. But if we work together, we can demand more and we can work towards climate justice together.
Then Ifa, today the leaders of the world are in New York. It's the first day of the UN Water Conference. But what will happen with this process in the UN system? I heard that something will happen next week. What will happen?
Yeah, so we're only 1 week away from a critical moment in this campaign. Next week, the UN General Assembly will vote on the resolution that is tabled by Vanuatu and by a core group of 18 other states. And we're calling on all our governments, all countries to support this resolution so that proceedings can start at the International Court of Justice and the ICJ can hear its first climate change case in its history.
Thank you very much, Ifa. And now we are going to move with another founder of this campaign. And we want to know how this initiative that started in a classroom in Vanuatu reached the UN Assembly. And I am delighted to welcome Belinda Rimaki. She is one of the students from the Pacific Island. Belinda, very happy to see you here. And thank you also for your leadership and the leadership of IFA and many young people in the Pacific to mobilize this great initiative. But I just wanted that you start sharing with us, how did you get involved also with this climate change initiative, and why?
Yes, so thank you, Adriana. First of all, I'd like to thank all the organizers for this forum. And also it's been an honor to be a part of this forum with all these amazing young leaders of the world as well. So in relation to your question, so I started with the organization back in 2019 when I did my first year at the University of the South Pacific School of Law. So basically, this initiative has been started by 27 law students who have taken the course of environmental law, and they have seen that there is a tool that they could use to help fight against climate change, to help address climate change. So it was from them that I learned about the importance of that initiative. And I see that coming from an island nation where we have unpredictable weathers of cyclones, like just last week, we had 2 cyclones in Vanuatu. We had sea level rise that's really affecting our islands. And I come from an island nation that's currently facing very severe sea level rises. And that actually pushes me to be a part of this great initiative. And that is why I had that motivation to continue to be a part of that movement up until today.
Fantastic. You know, young people today, students, organize themselves and mobilize the support of the international community. But then, Belinda, just share with us, how was the process? How did you start it? How did you mobilize not only students, but later communities, and after that, governments?
Yes, Adriana, thank you for that great question. So it is through our basically, we started from the university where we talk with our lecturers, and then we share the initiative also to students. And also it was through the help of the foreign minister of Vanuatu that time, Honorable Ralph Regenvanu, that actually took up that initiative and actually led us to share about what we can do and the idea that we had. So it was through collaborations with so many CSOs from the Pacific that actually pushes this initiative from the regional level and up now to the international level.
Melinda, and finally, you know, what is your recommendation? The Pacific region is one of the most affected. We have a small island developing states. We have seen the impacts. The report of the IPCC stress the importance, of taking action now. What will be your recommendation and your call to action to governments, and also your message for young people?
Yes. So the message to young people today is like, I want you to take up initiative, to do something for your community. There's nothing too big or too small for us to do. We have, for us, the youth, the generation that we are now, we are a generation of peacemakers, of lawyers, of change makers, and people that who actually see things and does things, and that is why we're striving with the initiative up until today. So I encourage you, if to be a part of such initiatives like this, engage yourself. If you don't know it, learn from others. We are here to help. We're always here. So just reach out to us. Now we're in a technological era where you can always keep us connected on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. So do reach out to us, and we will always give you information and let you know how to join such amazing initiatives like this. And also to the governments that are to our governments, is that we want you to vote yes for the resolution, so that we could actually see change in the upcoming negotiations for climate change, and we could see more ambitious actions for our adaptation plans as well. So that's that, Adriana. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Belinda, to finalize, young people that want to organize other initiative, what did work well? And from this experience, what can you advise to them?
So from my experience is that find the people that you have the same, that are like-minded like you, who share the same passion, who have the energy to push for things. Be with them, connect with them, collaborate with them, and also find there are other amazing organizations that are there to help you to find the seat in the table, so that you could actually put your initiative that could actually have the leaders hear about what you're doing. So connect with like-minded people, and don't be afraid to share your ideas, because nothing is wrong or bad in this context of climate change. We are here to help and support each other. So yeah, always reach out, don't be afraid to ask, and be motivated to make a change for your community.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you.
Belinda. And thank you very much for your leadership and to make this campaign possible. We hope that governments next week, as part of the General Assembly, will vote for a legal opinion from the International Court of Justice related to climate change. And it will be an unprecedented and remarkable achievement for young people, but you already have mobilized governments and people around the world. Congratulations. And now,
Thank you.
then we will continue just hearing inspiring stories and also how others are working. And engaging young people in the decision-making process is important, is relevant, and is also one of the recommendations of the IPCC report. The IPCC report highlights the need to have a long-term and integrated approach for adaptation, and that that governments bring together different stakeholders, including youth, to design and implement these adaptation policies. And I am now also delighted to welcome Atishma La. She is from the Pacific Island Forum. The Pacific Island Forum is a platform that brings together governments, and is a platform for collaboration, for international, also defining international programs. Then Atishma, thank you very much to join us at the first Youth Adaptation Forum. And I would like that you share with us a bit more about how the Pacific Island Forum, what is doing to accelerate climate resilience.
Thank you, Adriana, for the introduction and question. Bula, everyone, greetings from the beautiful Fiji Islands. As one of the themes at the UN Water Conference is Water for Climate, Resilience and Environment, sources to sea, biodiversity, climate resilience, and disaster risk reduction. So in the Pacific, resilience efforts are coordinated through an umbrella framework, which is called the Framework for Resilience Development in the Pacific, FRDEP. It is from 2017 to 2030, which is an integrated approach to address climate change and disaster risk management. And it is operationalized through recognizing that building resilience has to be an inclusive, genuine, and active multi-stakeholder partnership. This partnership is called Pacific Resilience Partnership. And this was endorsed by Pacific Islands Forum leaders in 2017 to facilitate effective implementation of the framework for resilience development in the Pacific. And there are some of the collaborations which Pacific Island Forum Secretariat is doing. And one of them is working with the UNDP on governance for resilient development in the Pacific. It's a project, Gulf Forest project, which mainstream resilient development with Pacific Island government associated with their decision making and governance systems, including risk-informed development at the community level. I may just highlight some of the projects which this bigger project is undertaking in the Pacific, which are in the Solomon Islands, training women on organic farming and resilient agroforestry systems, and assist women in securing access to markets for their products. And in Fiji, it's actually supporting water projects, mainly constructing communal water tanks and also new distributions of points. And it also raised informed risk-informed development dialogues in Kiribati, Tonga, Vanuatu, and Fiji. So yeah, these are some of the initiatives which Pacific Island Forum Secretariat is undertaking.
Thank you. And we have young people from all the Pacific here join this Youth Adaptation Forum. If young people want to engage in these initiatives and programs, how they can be involved?
Thank you, Adriana. I know this is a very, very valid question. Elevating meaningful youth engagement for climate action are key to safeguard our livelihoods as we progress towards turbulent, uncertain climatic future. As already Nikhil has emphasized on the impact of climate change in the Pacific in his dialogue earlier. So yes, youth engagement at Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat are mainstreamed through the Pacific Resilience Partnership, which I have emphasized earlier. And under this PRP, there are various technical working groups. And one of them is the Youth Working Group. And this youth working group is established and is quite active, which is made up of representatives from organizations actively engaging youth through advocacy and programming in the Pacific in the area of disaster risk reduction and climate change. And these youth engagement are also very key in other technical working groups under this Pacific Resilience Partnership. These includes human mobility, those technical working groups like human mobility, risk governance, and disaster risk finance, information knowledge, and management. And just to emphasize, in 2021, there was an event held, which was a youth forum, which was organized during the week of Pacific Resilience meeting. And it was held in Fiji. So overall, the discussion around this youth focus on the 4 pillars of resilience, which is integrate, include, inform, and sustain. And moreover, there is another program which Pacific Island Forum Secretariat is currently undertaking, which is Pacific Islands Forum Secretary General's Young Climate Leaders Alliance. And it is an initiative which started back in 2021. And the Pacific Young Climate Leaders Alliance have selected young climate advocates across the Pacific Island countries. And these demonstrate their evidence, recognition in climate advocacy work in the region as well as internationally. And currently there are 14 young advocates which represent 8 forum member countries that have confirmed their interest to be part of this Pacific Island Forum Secretariat, Secretary General's Pacific Young Climate Leaders Alliance. And this is also open it invests in capacity building dialogues or opportunities, and they also funds for youth participation around in COP meetings. So far it has give participation to youths in COP26, COP27 at the moment, and it also supports youth in proposal writing, development of proposal writing. And another emphasis I would like to put into this initiative is this program gives youth an opportunity or easier access to leaders in raising their voices around climate change, resilience, disaster risk. So they have got easier access to the leaders.
Atishma, thank you very much. And you mentioned the importance of capacity building and to support young entrepreneurs. And it is the transition, because now as we continue, what we want to provide is a platform to showcase different initiatives and also what the African continent is doing. And now I want, with this, in what you just shared with us, Atishma, about entrepreneurship, also to bring one experience from Cameroon. It's a young lady who created a business as part of the adaptation solutions. And I want that we watch together this video. She's in Cameroon presenting the initiative of waste management.
Dans notre quartier, nous sommes exposés aux intempéries majeures déjà que nous ne supportons presque pas au quotidien. Plus particulièrement en saison de pluie, nous sommes tellement mal à l'aise avec des inondations. Les drains sont bouchés, nous avons des ordures de ménagères qui ont rempli tous les drains dans le système d'évacuation des eaux. À moindre inondation, à moindre pluie, nous sommes inondés.
Climate change is making it worse because when the sea levels are rising, water needs its normal channels to pass through, and these are the drainage channels in cities. But communities are dumping their waste in those drainage channels, and the drainage channels are clogged, and so it's causing this flooding, which is a huge climate adaptation issue. Those who are affected most are women and children because of their socioeconomic status and because they have been left at home. And when the rain falls and it's very heavy, the flooding occurs in the households where the mothers and children are always. It's very important to me because I have been affected by flooding. By the age of 6, properties in my mom's house were actually destroyed, caused by flooding. It made me feel like I actually had to provide a solution, especially to those who were coming from the low-income backgrounds and were abandoned by municipal authorities, that we had to find a solution for them as well. Our solution provides software for drones to quickly inspect waste on physical sites and then work with youth environmental community groups, municipalities and city councils to collect the waste and properly dispose.
Ces zones-là, elles sont nombreuses dans la ville de Douala et le moyen le plus fiable et le plus rapide pour pouvoir les détecter, c'est via un drone.
The AI technology looks through the pictures, looks through the videos, and detects areas where either there could be potential for flood, there could be potential for garbage heaps, or there could be potential for blockages in the drainage system. And when the software detects that, it actually informs whoever is using the application. It informs the person that at this precise location, it gives a Google Map location and reference. At this precise location, there is a potential for flooding occurring.
It actually helps in so many ways because at first we had to pay a lot of people to send them into the field. But with the drone now, and it actually does a survey around the town and gives us the statistics and the exact point which waste disposal is not properly done.
So every problem in the world begins with a climate change issue. That is why transforming our strategies for providing climate change adaptation solutions is the only way we all have now and in the future to make the world a better place.
À mon humble avis, je salue déjà, n'est-ce pas, l'initiative que Blicklin, par exemple, a entrepris pour traquer, par les drones, enlever les déchets, parce que quand même le plus démuni a le droit de vivre.
As you can see, young people are leading adaptation solutions, and it's important to provide support to the young entrepreneurs. But now we want to continue, but we want to listen your opinions and also your recommendations. Then what we are going to do now is we are going to move in 3 breakout rooms. We will have 3 groups, one looking more at the international level. It means how young people can contribute and what are the ideas and recommendations for the global goal on adaptation. As you know, governments in 2015 adopted the Paris Agreement, and it's an international framework for climate action. And the Paris Agreement outlined the importance to define a global goal on adaptation. This year is a crucial year because governments are negotiating the global goal on adaptation, and we want to hear your ideas and recommendations. It will be the group number 1, and I want to also welcome Fale Andrew Lesa. He is from Samoa, and he is member of the Youth Advisory Panel 2023. Fale, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Fantastic. Then welcome. Fale will be in this group with me. The second group is more at the national level. We mentioned the importance of youth participation and youth engagement with the national adaptation plans. The national adaptation plans are policies that provide a framework for national action, identifying needs, priorities, but also key partnerships that can be established. And this group will be facilitated and moderated by Nikhil Prasad. And then, Nikhil, you will be in the working group at the national level. And then we will have the last working group that will be Youth-Led Adaptation Action, and it will be moderated by Haley. Then how the methodology will be, we will have these 3 working groups. You can select if you want to discuss more about the global level, or if you want to focus more at the national level, or more at the action level. You can select, you will see in your screen, 3 working groups. We will have some minutes there, and we will discuss your ideas and recommendations. Then I also recommend to take some notes that later you can report Nikhil, Haley, and Fale, report back to the plenary. Then enjoy, and in this group where I am, we'll continue the group working on recommendations and suggestions for the global goal on adaptation. And if you just joined, what we are doing now is we are dividing the session, and we are going to move into breakout rooms. We will have 3 breakout rooms. The first one that is at the international level related to the global goal on adaptation. The second is at national level, connecting and discussing about youth participation in the national adaptation plans. And the third one is about youth leading adaptation solutions. Then we have these 3 working groups. And I welcome you to the working group. Now, Fale, you are in the working group at the international level. Let's start with you. You know, just maybe introduce yourself and give a very brief overview about what have you done at the international level, and also from your experience how youth can help to shape the international agenda.
Thank you very much. Warm Pacific greetings, everybody. I'm currently a policy consultant for the Asian Development Bank, but I was also a keynote speaker at COP in China. So I have a lot of experience at the international level with UNESCO, with UNCCCD, and with a number of other UN agencies. And I'm very mindful that there aren't a lot of young people in the international arena on climate change, and that is where we can have the biggest impact in terms of holding governments accountable for their commitments. And young people are very creative and innovative, and that's exactly what they need at an international level. How are we making an impact on the ground? What does success look like? How do we measure success? And more importantly, how do we hold those governments accountable for those commitments?
Then, Fale, from your experience, how can we make governments accountable? You mentioned that is one of the areas. From your experience, how can it be done?
We need to organize effectively within civil society, but we also have a number of researchers here, and data is a very good way to hold governments accountable. Looking at the data, are we seeing any improvements? If not, why not? The government has prioritized these commitments, so why aren't we seeing any improvement in the data? The media is also another important actor, showcasing the kind of stories where the government is being held accountable, and also businesses through corporate responsibility. Businesses actually owe money to the climate change movement, and we need to make sure that those businesses are paying their fair share for climate action on the ground.
Fantastic. Then we have also participants here that have all different experiences engaging at the international level. Then Melinda, you have been with this global campaign to request this legal opinion to the International Court of Justice related climate change. And now governments are deciding and negotiating the global goal on adaptation. What do you think is important to include there? From the perspective of a young leader, what will be your recommendation? Melinda. Belinda, can you hear me?
She might be in another group.
Then now what we are going to do is, as governments are negotiating this global goal on adaptation, I would like to open to you, that you share with us. What do you think? And I can see people from different countries who would like to share, to share your views and your opinions about how youth, can contribute to shape the international agenda, but also what do you consider is important that this global goal on adaptation will include? Who would like to contribute? Fale, from your perspective, from the perspective of the Pacific, what will be important to be there?
For me, it's about nature-based solutions. I helped regrow mangroves in the Pacific because mangroves serve a very useful purpose. They protect against flooding, but they also filter the local water. And so when we talk about, this being International Water Day, mangroves serve a very useful purpose around water renewal and water sustainability. I also help fight for the reproduction of whales, because one whale is the equivalent of thousands of trees. And so by helping with the breeding of whales, we're actually making a big difference in climate change. So using nature-based solutions at a local level, they're cost-effective, they get the local community involved in climate change, and they're so much easier to get behind.
And Fale, what are the challenges in implementing these nature-based solutions, especially for young people?
The challenge is that young people are very transient. We move towns, we move cities for work, for study. We can't always commit long-term to these kind of projects. And a lot of young people drop out and they come in at all sorts of times. And so managing expectations and managing all the different priorities and responsibilities that young people are involved in, we're very busy people. So managing that workload can be very difficult.
Then from that, if we are thinking about the global goal on adaptation, then one of the recommendations is also to promote nature-based solutions that young people can lead and can implement and have the support to implement nature-based solutions. And when you were implementing this project, then also, what do you think young people need? When they are, they have their initiative, what they need to implement?
Absolutely. We need money. we can't do this without money. And there's always an expectation by adults that young people will do it for free because it's voluntary experience and it looks good on our resume. But the reality is, without money, these projects can't get off the ground. Money keeps these projects feasible. They allow the projects to get bigger and more effective, but they also support the young people on the ground who are working for free. It's not easy. You know, we could be earning money for our families and our communities, but instead we're volunteering for climate change. And so rewarding the young people involved in these projects with a few dollars to help them with travel and with other costs is also very important.
Then recommendation.
Consultants, for example, are being paid thousands of dollars for their work on climate change, but young people are expected to do it for nothing. It's tokenism, and it has to stop.
Then we need to promote nature-based solutions, but also to provide remuneration for the work that young people undertake. And I would like also to hear from other participants their opinions. You know, if you can, any of you can introduce yourself and also share what you are doing. And from your experience, also we take some recommendations that can be presented and shared for the global goal on adaptation. Who would like to share the experience? Please, if you want to share, just raise your hand, and like this we will be able also to open your microphone and that you can share your experience. Please, I see over there. Then introduce yourself, share with where are you from and the experience and your recommendation.
Thank you so much. I'm called Ojasware from Community Empowerment Network, one of the refugee-led initiative. We're based in Uganda in one of refugees camp called Rhino Camp. Here we really adapt this agenda by, we actually do planting. We promote agroforestation where there are trees planted and the food crops that are being planted. And why we adopt this, we know if you see the context of Rhino Camp, this is a semi-desert place where it is really, there are no trees. And that's why we designed these policies, like planting those trees to change the climate affection here. And I'm really much happy with what my colleague have just said. One of the recommendation is we need some financial support, and the other thing is capacity building, because we are just a youth initiative that we started from nowhere, and we really need that support. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and I will kindly request to Fale if you can take some notes to report back later to the plenary. Then we have another experience there, also now with agroforestation. Let's hear another recommendation, please. You can introduce yourself, your name, your country, and also from your experience, the recommendation.
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I am Hussein Orekoya from Nigeria, and working on, and first of all, let's say World Water Day to every one of us, and currently the UN are gathered at the United Nations headquarters for the World Water Day. So it's really important to understand about youth adaptation for water. And that's currently speaking about the work I'm currently doing in Nigeria concerning water resilience and studying about the resilience and the shocks and stresses that affects water resilience and how it affects youth, and especially girls and women about water. So in my own understanding from my studies over the course of the research, we get to understand that youth are at the forefront in providing water for all. And it's very much important to put the youth at the table to provide the solution that they found on the field, and also design and devise solutions to ensure water is available for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another contribution, capacity building. Please, then introduce yourself and share your thoughts.
Hello, everyone.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Lana. I am from Ethiopia, from Daura Marcos University. First of all, I will wanted to say something in regarding to climate change. Climate change doesn't have a boundary. It is affecting all the world. So I think we work on globally, even if we are keeping our environment, we are not escape from the effect of the climate change, because as I have said that climate change doesn't have a boundary. The way that how can we protect or adapt adaptation is, the first thing is keeping the land safe. That means most of the time climate change comes from overgrazing, deforestation, and also large populations, and also dumping wastes in that means misuse of household wastes from water bodies. So in our country, our government tries to make some polluted water bodies by keeping and planting trees and to try to make clean. So young people try to make plantation as Vale says that, mango tree plantation. Not only mango tree, other plantation purposes help to reduce climate change. When we are planting plants have many advantages. For example, we can participate in beekeeping by planting, and also youths can participate in plantation. But the big problem, the big challenge, as you raise that, most of budget, in connection with budget, there is a budget problem, and also leading problem. There is no leader that form youth, or that make youth to engage in plantation. That is my opinion. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. The recommendation of thinking globally, but also connecting at the local level. And it continues the importance of providing access to funding for young people, but also is a call to doubling the funding for adaptation. It was one of the commitments of governments as part of the Glasgow Pact, and now is one of the most important elements. If we want to accelerate adaptation action, funding is fundamental, and funding is also crucial for young people. Then let's continue. If you can introduce yourself, share with us your name, your country, and very brief. In this way, we will give the possibility to more people to participate. Please.
Hi, I'm Sayed, and I'm from Bangladesh. I'm an university lecturer in maritime law. Am I clear?
Yes, fantastic. Welcome.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So I was thinking about how we could approach those who donate, because there's lots of funding available, I know, and they also fund countries like Bangladesh, who are least developed and approaching for the developing countries in recent times soon. But we're also one of the most climate vulnerable countries in the world. Like pollutions here is too much here. Like in my city, capital city, Dhaka, it was listed like most air polluted city for like 30 days in last 3 months. So you kind of know what the situation here. But we also, youths are not engaging that much, because we don't know, youths, they don't know how to engage there or how to approach. If the youths, they're looking to get to some donors or get some introduced to some adaptation networks, they don't know how to approach them. We have to rely on some seniors who could approach, actually help them reach. So we need to have a media to go to the donator or someone. So, but they cannot engage directly, and at university level or school level or college, they cannot just have this time to reach someone, then go to someone. Instead, they need someone, so it's like we can link directly with youth. So this is one of the issues we can work on. Also, funding is a crucial issue, because even like elder citizens here, like even people at 40s and 30s, they are living under poverty level, so they cannot feed themselves. And if you are expecting youth to just work voluntarily, it's literally impossible for youth to work on, because their parents are not surviving on hand-to-mouth daily. And how could just youth work on voluntarily? That's really hard to expect from youth here as well. So I think it's, yeah, sure.
Thank you very much. And then another recommendation is to create platforms that can connect young people with possible funders, and also institutions that can provide technical and capacity building support. Thank you very much. Let's continue. Please introduce yourself, your name, your country, and your contribution.
Good morning. Good morning here in Nigeria. Afternoon, evening. Can you hear
Welcome.
me? Yes, I'm Amuchi Dominic from Nigeria. I'm a PhD student in agricultural extension. As a long-standing a researcher, I've been doing much on the regenerative agriculture, which is a kind of adaptation and a mitigation approach to climate change. Severally, as you on the chart, one of the videos in collaboration with Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, I have done it in order to spread the communication and the innovation on the climate change adaptation. And this adaptation then include at least calendar planning in order to suit the dynamics of the climate change and water harvesting. And then the mitigation approaches has been explained in the video. I've said something about the cover crops. It helps a lot in order to restore the biodiversity within our surrounding, and it's very crucial. These are the legumes that are also very proteinous in nature that can replace the meat protein. And most of the locals, they have gone for hunting and destroying the biodiversity because of the meat, hunting for meat. And these protein cover crops and the legume crops can be replaced for that protein. It helps also to capture nitrogen and fix it for its own fertilizer. Thus, it helps to reduce global warming, and this is very essential. I will also post the video in the chat also for consideration, and my email for further collaboration. Thank you. Dominic from Nigeria.
Thank you very much. And it's an invitation to all of you to share your contact details in the chat, to share any material. The idea of this Pacific Youth Adaptation Forum is to bring together young people from the Pacific, but also from other countries around the world to exchange good practices, ideas, and recommendations. And we are in this group discussing from the experiences, what ideas and recommendations we have related to the global goal on adaptation. I have heard about capacity building, about funding, platforms to connect young people with possible donors, the need to connect the global level with local action, use the communication tools, connect. Then let's hear from another person. Then please. Go ahead, introduce yourself, your name, your country, and your idea.
Thank you for the floor. I'm Kakule Zapu Michael, the founder and the chief executive officer at Academia Group DRC from Congo. And I personally am a beekeeper from the age of 11 years, and up to now I'm running beekeeping. And nowadays I'm 32 years old. And I learned this from my father, who is a beekeeper from 74 up to now. It means that beekeeping, it's my life and it's my passion. That's why even I would like to share with you how green entrepreneurship, it can just facilitate youth to gain money, how they can just contribute to adaptation. Because although we are just planting trees, but we should try to see how we can get value from trees which we are planting. That's why once we are integrating beekeeping in our forest, it's just not only to get money for ourselves, but it's because of just protecting pollinators. We're gonna facilitate even animals and plants to be grown more and more. That's why I would like to share with other colleagues wherever they are just turning in, but beekeeping, it's one of our domain which we are promoting, and we would like to be, if there is one who is interested with this domain, we will be ready to share our experience and to try to see how it's gonna impact more young people in green entrepreneurship. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I want to hear also from a lady, Noor Mohammed. Then please introduce yourself, tell us where are you from, and also your contribution.
Thank you so much. I'm Noor Mohammed. I'm a climate reality leader and as well as a global shaper. I'm from Alexandria, Egypt, and I had the opportunity to attend COP27. So the contribution that I want to make is that we need to focus on community-based solutions, but in order to focus on that, we also need to skill and upskill and reskill the most vulnerable communities, especially ones focused in vulnerable sectors like agriculture and fishing, with green skills to be able to adapt to the impacts of the climate crisis, and also to focus on people suffering from inequities like women, people with disabilities, and all the other frontline communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for this contribution. I think gender is a very important element, and especially in adaptation. Now we have the final contribution, and we will move to the plenary room. Then we have a final intervention.
Good morning.
Good morning. We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Jean Ghislaine Gongwe. I am Cameroonian, but I live in Togo. My English is not very clear, but I will try to speak in English.
Perfect.
Okay.
Very brief, because very soon we will move to the plenary again. But we can hear you very well.
Okay. I am a social welfare in Togo, where I work. So what I want to say today is that young people have many problems in Togo. First problem is education. Education and professional formation, because many of them want to look of job, but they don't have a professional formation. So that it's difficult to them to take care of their family, of their self. So I think that if young people are educated and then they have a professional formation, many things can change in Togo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with these remarks, we will continue in the plenary.
Yes,
and young people have shared their ideas. Okay, but I think,
yes,
okay, then it will be the last intervention. Please go ahead, and we will just bring all the three groups together.
Okay, my name is Shona Jallo. I am from Sierra Leone.
Welcome.
Okay, so actually, my own point which I want to raise there, and because last year, for me, I am an innovator in terms of climate change, trying to use the technology to try to solve climate change. Last year, I went for the final for the Africa Adaptation Challenge. So what I want to appeal in terms, when they are doing this innovation challenge, because they should also look about two things. The country that need more support in terms of climate change. Because now, like, the competition was, they are looking for 20 innovator challenge that should be shortlisted. But now, if they are doing this innovator, they should also consider the country that needed it, like for Sierra Leone.
imagine for the past 27 years, they have been supporting different countries. They should try to include diversification in terms of the innovation challenge, because climate change is not one country which should be supporting. If there will be a given fund allocation, they should try to cut across, because every country will be impacting to solve climate change. If there will be supporting, let them look at Nigeria, two representatives, Sierra Leone 2 representative, Gambia 2 representative, and Gambia 2 representative, Ghana. So it will be diversified. So every country will be supporting climate change, because it should also create a job. It should create a job, gender diversification, proper innovation, and in terms of financial assistance. So all these reasons will be enough, because imagine if one country will be benefiting, and if one country benefiting about 5%, those countries that will be left behind, we should also create a big gap, because every country, if the ozone layer is facing if Sierra Leone is polluting about CO2 emission going to the ozone layer, it will be also affecting Ghana, not only Sierra Leone. So every support from the Africa Adaptation Forum should be allocated. If 2 representatives from Sierra Leone, 2 representatives from Ghana, 2 representatives from Malawi, 2 representatives from Egypt. So it will be cost across every country will be supporting indirectly to solve climate change.
Yes, then what is important here is basically that young people can have access to funding, capacity building, training, to make possible that they are agents of change at the local level, and that they can put their innovative ideas and solutions as part of the adaptation solutions at the local and national level. Then I want to welcome all of you. Thank you for the discussions. Now we have together the 3 breakout rooms. We have one.
My name is...
I think that now I have
name...
informed that now the breakout room, we are running out of time, but thank you very much. Your contribution, you can also share your contribution directly into the chat. You can put your name, your country, your recommendation, or if you have an initiative, also feel free to share your initiative. Then I welcome everyone back to the plenary. We have 3 breakout rooms. We have one at the global level, another one thinking more at the national level and the engagement in national adaptation plans, and the third group more related to locally led adaptation. Then I want to invite the 3 facilitators to do an exercise to all these ideas and recommendations to very briefly summarize. Then Fale, let's start with you. What are the ideas and recommendations related to the international level and especially to the global goal on adaptation? Over to you, Fale.
Thank you very much. We had a very extensive conversation. The first topic was investing in nature-based solutions. We talked about planting mangroves as they serve as a filter for water and fight against flooding. We talked about whales, because one whale is the equivalent of thousands of trees. We talked about beekeeping in Africa, and we talked about saltwater resistant crops for farmers. So adapting the way that we do agriculture to fit the new environment that we're faced with. We also talked about remuneration for young people in climate change. Consultants are paid thousands of dollars for their work on climate change, but young people are expected to do that for free. So awarding young activists on the ground with money for travel and other costs is a great way to show that we actually take young people seriously and that it's not tokenism when we ask young people to be active in climate change. We talked about the role of gender in the climate change movement. Women in particular are on the front lines of climate change, but their voices are often unheard. We talked about farmers, fishermen, people on the ground, indigenous communities, people with disabilities, and how their voices are often not heard at the international level. So how do we make those spaces more inclusive? How do we make room for equity at the international level? We talked about green jobs and green businesses. The green revolution is taking off in America, but we haven't seen that in the Pacific, and we haven't seen that in Asia, and we haven't seen that in Africa. So how do we get access to the green revolution? By way of creating more green jobs and more green businesses. We talked about connecting young people with funding and other platforms so that we can amplify our work from the ground up and get more international traction for what we do on a regular basis. We talked about data-driven advocacy, using hard numbers to make the business case for young people in climate change. And we also talked about capacity building, technical training and education. How do we make sure that students in the classroom are already learning about climate action so that when they leave school, they are active, they are informed, and they can get straight to it? And that's a quick summary of what we discussed. I want to acknowledge and thank all of the contributors, including yourself, for facilitating. It was a very useful conversation. Over to you.
Thanks a lot, Fale. And let's move from the international level now to the national level, please.
Thank you very much, Adriana. We had a few participants that spoke very significantly about what are some of the ways that we can actually work from local to national level, and from national driving forward the policies and everything that can primarily work towards making sure the adaptation priorities are met within a particular country. So we had participants from, I think, me being Fiji, there was another one from Fiji. We had someone from Nigeria. I think we had 2 participants from Nigeria. So in summary, we primarily just talked about the adaptation mechanisms that we have and what are some of the ways we can strengthen the policies and how policies can later be implemented to make sure that the national priorities are met for each individual within the country. So a quick summary for that. Thank you.
Excellent. And just I want to mention that this year, the Global Center on Adaptation, in collaboration with the Youth Advisory Panel and young people from different countries, will produce a guide about youth engagement with the national adaptation plans. Then Haley, now we have the international, the national level. Let's talk about more the local level, but connected to youth-led adaptation solutions and action. Over to you.
Thanks, Adriana. So we had some really interesting projects that young people were working on in our group. So we had some particularly interesting activities where young people were working on focusing on things like sustainable development, looking at health, human rights, oceans, and gender equality was a thing that came up a few times as well. So really looking at how young people and youth groups are already working in the communities that they live in, and that often young people are doing the solutions on the ground, but that often these solutions are not being funded. And often that's because young people don't have access to becoming, say, an official organization or doing the kind of paperwork that they need to do to get the financing from those bigger funders. So that is something that's a really big lesson learned that came up in our discussion. Another thing is really looking at building local networks in locally led adaptation. That was something that came up a lot as well, and ensuring that there are lots of key connections amongst young people in building those projects and building capacity of members to actually run the projects that they would like to see run in their community. So really putting that community-centered, youth-centered approach. There was some really good discussion around changing agriculture on a local scale for communities as well, and looking at different strategies across that. And also just looking at innovative ways to engage in adaptation, look at what's being done, what's not working, and kind of forge a path from there. So yeah, it was a really awesome conversation, some really great things happening.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Heli, Nikhil, and Fale, and especially to all of you for your ideas, for your recommendations. Your voices, but especially your actions really matter. We are in a climate emergency, and only with every one of us taking action, we can address this global challenge. Now, you know that we are celebrating the UN Water Conference in New York. Today is the first day, and also the World Water Day. And we have one member of the Youth Advisory Panel 2022. She is Elisa Bayancourt. She is also organizing part of the youth movement in New York, and she has prepared a video. Let's watch the video from New York.
My name is
Melissa Vaillancourt, and I work for the International Secretariat for Water. And I was also a member of the 2022 Youth Advisory Panel of the Global Center on Adaptation. It's a pleasure to be joining you today for the Pacific Youth Adaptation Forum directly from New York City, as today not only marks World Water Day, but it also marks the beginning of the UN Water Decade Conference. For the first time in over 47 years, our world leaders will be gathering in this building to discuss about the most pressing water-related issues. And in the lead up to this moment, young people from all over the world have gathered to create a youth movement for water that our world can no longer ignore. Bringing together thousands of young changemakers from all parts of the world, this movement aims to demand for more bold political will and action for water. Water is at the very center of climate adaptation, as 90% of natural disasters are water related. The outcomes of this conference, unfortunately, will not be in the form of a binding agreement between member states, but will be centered around the commitments made through the Water Action Agenda. This agenda already brings together hundreds of commitments from stakeholders, parties, CSO, civil society, youth, to really showcase, it's really action oriented and really aims to showcase how we need action. There has been enough talk, enough commitments. This conference aim is really action focused, and this Water Action Agenda really aims to showcase concrete actions for water and, of course, for climate. So I would invite you to join us for this historical moment, get your voices heard, and hopefully we can show how we can all come together to fill up the glass.
Directly from New York, we have Elisa Villancover, member of the Youth Advisory Panel 2022, who is organizing the Water Youth Movement. And leaders of the world today will gather together at the UN Water Conference. And there is a very strong interlink and connection between water and adaptation. And we need an integrated approach and integrated solutions. Then now let's move to a Mentimeter. I want to invite you all. You can use your mobile phone, or you can use also your laptop. Just log in using Mentimeter, and the code that we have is 622-37318. Then use your mobile phone. You can put directly using your mobile phone the code, go to mentimeter.com and log in with the code 622-37318. And we have other questions for you. Then at the beginning, we asked you about if you know what is a NAP, but we would like to hear from you. What will be your recommendation to the decision makers, especially governments, related to the global goal on adaptation? The global goal on adaptation, remember, that will be this part of this global agreement. You know, governments will agree at COP28 what needs to be done related to adaptation. Then what will be your recommendation for them? You can just use some keywords or some of the key categories that what you would like to see there. Then just use your mobile phone and we will see the responses. What is your message to decision makers related to the global goal on adaptation? And today we have extraordinary speakers and young people from all over the world that join. But this forum is the Pacific Youth Adaptation Forum, bringing together young people from the Pacific, but as well decision makers, during the UN Water Conference and the World Water Day. Then do we have already some of the responses there? Then you can start to see the different responses. And we will give some minutes more for participants to share their opinions. I am receiving here some messages from people that are, you know, that are engaged not only using the Zoom link, but this Youth Forum is live stream. We have also people connected in social media. What we want is to amplify youth voices. Then please also use your social media channels using the hashtag Youth for Adaptation to share. Then we have here the cloud about what is your message to the global goal on adaptation. You can include one keyword. Then what you will say, what is important? I have heard that it's about capacity building, it's about funding, it's about also using media, it's about nature-based solutions. What more? We have different ideas and recommendations, and this cloud is growing and growing. And then from the global level, let's move now to another area. You know that all the countries, your governments are invited to develop a national adaptation plan. A national adaptation plan is a policy. And it's a policy that can help every country to identify the gap, the need, but also these priority areas for the adaptation agenda at the national level, taking into account the national circumstances. Then I want to invite you, also using your mobile phone, to share with us what do you need to engage in the design and implementation of the National Adaptation Plan in your country. So some of you mentioned that you were not aware about these national adaptation plans, but if we want to promote youth participation and youth engagement with the national adaptation plans, what do you need? And we will have also a word there. Just put what in some words, what do you need? And then the cloud start to grow with ideas and recommendations about what young people need. I also heard that it's about creating green jobs. It's about fostering young entrepreneurship. It's making funding accessible to all. It's also connecting with education and that young people can access this. And the final question that we have is connecting to the local adaptation action. Then we have the global level, the national policies, and at the end, we have local action. Then please also share in the cloud what will be your recommendation. If you are thinking, okay, I am in this city, in my community, what would you need to take adaptation action? And we start to see there also the response. We will have a cloud. Then we have here many experiences, you know, about, for instance, young people really leading nature-based solutions. And campaigns also were related to tree planting and agroforestry, but also water management. Then if you want to implement, you identify the challenges and the impacts of climate change in your community. What do you need to implement an adaptation solution? What do you need? And the cloud start to grow with recommendations and ideas. What do you need? Then funding is central there. Capacity building, peer-to-peer learning, international exchange. Then we have different ideas and recommendations. Please continue putting your ideas. What do you need to lead? Then it has been a very interesting youth forum, and I am really excited that today we launch this series of youth adaptation forums. Today is the first one, but during the 2023, we will organize the regional youth adaptation forums, almost one every month. It's an invitation for all of you. Now we are with the Pacific Youth Forum, but that you can join all the forums. The next one will take place in April, and it will be for Asia. And we will bring together good practices, but also decision makers and other actors to discuss what is happening in Asia, but as well how young people can mobilize adaptation solutions. I want to thank all our speakers and panelists. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for making this transformation possible. Also to all our participants, you are there in your countries also leading adaptation solutions. As the IPCC said this week, we need to accelerate adaptation solutions. We don't have time. And these ideas and recommendations will be presented at COP28 that will take place this year in Dubai. And now I want to also, as the closing of this youth forum, to welcome the message of the Minister of Environment and also the COP28 presidency, Her Excellency Mariam bin Mohammed Al Meheri. She is from the United Arab Emirates, and they will be the host of COP28. Please, let's watch this video together.
Your Excellencies, our young leaders, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to address you today, and I thank the Global Center on Adaptation for inviting me and for the hard work they do to make the world a safer and sustainable place in light of the fast-progressing climate crises. The MENA region is among the world's most vulnerable to climate change, with projections of even higher temperatures and increased water stress. Raising our region's climate adaptive capacities is a priority that can only be achieved with the help of our youth. For young people, it's personal. It's their future at stake. Their determination to be engaged in developing climate change adaptation solutions that prepare us what's to come is evident. But it's the responsibility of those at the helm to give them the opportunity to be in charge of their own future and make sure their voices are heard when charting a global roadmap to a climate-resilient future. With the UAE hosting COP28 in 2023, we are committed to ensuring a meaningful participation and inclusion of youth into decision-making processes. We will make sure young people are present at the negotiation table, side by side with our senior government officials. We believe the young generation has the right to have a say in shaping its future. At COP28, we will have the first global stocktake of the Paris Agreement, and we must implement it effectively, as it will be one of our main pillars of delivery. As part of the process, we will review the global progress on the global goal on adaptation to know exactly where we stand and inform our next steps. To create a positive future for the next generation, climate action is an all-inclusive process. We need everyone on board, particularly our young leaders, if we are to succeed. I have high hopes in our young people, and I'm confident they will achieve great milestones in strengthening the global climate resilience. Together, we will be at the forefront of building a climate-safe, brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I want to invite you all to participate in the next Youth Adaptation Forums. The next one will be for Asia. And also to be part of the Youth Adaptation Network, a platform that brings together young people from more than 130 countries. You can see on the screen the calendar of our activities, and in the chat, you will see the link. If you are not a member of the Youth Adaptation Network, just use the link on the chat, go and register, and also visit the website of the Global Center on Adaptation and be part of the Youth Adaptation Forums. It is a pleasure to be with you. Happy World Water Day. And this forum is also contributing to the UN Water Conference. It's a call to action. It's a call to work together to accelerate the adaptation solutions. Thank you very much.